my name is Bola. Welcome back to Seriously Doughnuts, and I'm with the amazing Abi. And with us in the studio is the incredible Adejosh. Okay, so today we get to start feeling like we say Millennial, Gen Z, all of that put together because we've got the incredible Adejosh in the building. Mark my words, Adejosh is the next big thing on the Afrobeats scene.
Absolutely.
We're loving him. We've been loving him for a few years now. And we're seeing Adejosh just take the rise and rise. And we were really excited because Adejosh was recently on BBC. What was it? Was it BBC?
BBC One.
BBC One.
Yeah.
Watched him there. And he's just dropped a new video. So we're getting super excited, but we're even more excited today to have him here in the building. Welcome, Adejosh.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Okay, Adejosh, we're going to be putting you on the spot.
I'm ready.
Because a lot of people have been describing us as internet aunties. And we're trying to change. We're trying to change that view of us. You must be an internet auntie when you can be a millennial or Gen Z behavior.
Clock it.
Clock it. All right. So, Adejosh, welcome back once again.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us, first of all, I need to understand this here because all black boys, including my boys, have this thing. Did you guys go for a town hall or something where they said the hairstyle for this year for all the black boys is this?
So, in the book of How to Be Handsome 101, they said, grow your hair.
Written by Burna Boy,
Burna Boy, co-signed by Wizkid, signed by Davido.
Ashake family.
That's it. But yeah, so I just feel like it's just very, very much in trend. But with me, I feel like I always wanted to grow my hair, and I didn't have the opportunity growing up because, you know, our parents. So I feel like when I had the opportunity to, it just worked with the brand and character. So yeah, we're here today, handsome, alive, fresh. You know, I just bought it and they just shout out Bihu. I appreciate you guys.
Okay, it's part of the styling.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about knowing our parents. I remember when I was growing up, my older brother came home with like his hair woven. And the next thing we just heard my dad punching him like boom, 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 boom. And all of us were like, no! We literally thought my dad was going to kill him. Like, this guy is going to die. And he did not even say a word. He was just like laying in the bunches. And all of us were screaming. What would that have been like for you if, like, a few years ago?
It happened in real time.
Tell us about it.
So I went to my auntie's house the day before and I told her, please plait my hair. And she said, your dad won't like it. I said, no, please. So we were all going to the same church at the time. So my hair was plaited. The next day, my dad saw me in church. He didn't even utter a word. He just looked at me. And I thought I got away with it. When I didn't hear anything, I said, And I remember I was in church. Girls were like, Josh. So after church, my dad just says, when we get home. So we got home around 3 p.m. And because I know my father, as soon as 3 p.m. hit, I went straight to bed. At 3 p.m., just my aim was, as long as I can make it till tomorrow, I'm okay. Let's say 10 past 3, my dad walks into my room and he says, the thing that's on your head, remove it. Me as a kid, what do? I go back to sleep in hopes that he won't disturb me because I'm sleeping. Yeah, the second morning, he just dragged me. He didn't even undo the plait. I just heard razor. Zing. If you see all the bold patches I was on my, that day, even my mom changed it. Well, honestly, yeah, so, and it's so funny because growing up in school, a lot of my friends had hairs, the Jamaicans and all of that. They were the cool guys. Me too. I wanted to be cool guy. So, it was an experience. It was an experience for real.
Wow. honestly, when my sons first came home and they had their head twisted, and their auntie did it for them. What's up with these aunties?
Aunties, we love you.
And I was like, what? And he's like, Mom, you're the only one that complains. Everybody else compliments me. I was like, well, it was. But after a while, I just thought, okay, you know what? I'm just going to just swallow it up, lap it up. But it's hard. It's hard to be an auntie mom and then have to deal with this. Yeah. It's a new thing for us.
They all love it now. They all want to
So
go there.
let's educate the younger generation. Why do you guys have an issue with it?
I think when we were growing up, it represented. So our parents wanted us to grow up a certain kind of way. They had the stereotypical good kid look. And
this wasn't part of it.
Yeah, this was.
Really sharp. So every time you look forward to becoming a parent, you had a good kid look that was imposed on you, that was going to follow, because that's how things happen, right? So when you then come home with this, it's almost like an indictment against the parent. Like, did you bring up this child? And you're already thinking 5 miles ahead. If my neighbor sees this child, they're going to think I'm bad. I mean, Abi, what do you think?
Absolutely. I don't have anything to add. That's all. That is exactly as it is.
So,
and my son, whose name is also Joshua.
Yeah, great man.
Is Joshua's going to be 15 next week. So we're going through that
the stage of the
and getting ready to raid. And he's always coming, oh Mom, this is the hairstyle I want. I'm like, oh my God, please, can this come back over?
But do you know what's funny? So with the mindset of it was very much how things were presented, would you say Nigerians overall care more about how things look like rather than how things are?
Yes. But there's a fair reason for that. There's a fair reason because when you step out, you know what they say, dress how you want to be addressed. I feel like a lot of us growing up, we needed to almost tell people who we were before people spoke with us. We wanted to arrive before we arrived. We wanted to get there, and you've already made your mind up to be polite, to be good, to understand that we have a certain pedigree. So we kind of like, there's a Yoruba saying, if you know me well, I always have a Yoruba saying, and it's about domitu to sile, atele tutu. It means that whatever you put forward, it means when you pour water on the floor, when you step on it's cool. So if you want to get people to treat you right, you need to show up in a certain way that commands that respect.
And what I love about that is the beauty of Christianity.
Tell me.
Because one thing I honestly believe is, I feel like Christ came to demonstrate the complete opposite of standards we've set. Is as small as him riding on a donkey. God actually selected a donkey before Jesus Christ could have been on a horse. He could have been on a stallion. I feel like it's even Jesus performing a miracle on the Sabbath day. It was, oh my gosh, there's a standard. And God was very much, it's not about standards, but really about who you are. And I feel like that's where the change with this generation we're in now is people are very much more in tune with who they are. It's like the last guest you had on, she was talking about her son who plays football, and he just woke up and said, I want to do this, and she supported it. And that's where I feel like real growth comes in, is when people are really more in tune with themselves rather than the opinion or standards of society.
I feel like it was not only Jesus that came to set that standard. Jesus has now sent these millennials and to show us because if you did not listen to Jesus, these kids
you will learn.
Because I said the other time that one of my boys, my first one, when he was growing up, it was very subdued. But those second one, they come with some kind of like energy that you see everything you did to that first one.
Don't try me.
Don't try me. I'm not going for it. How'd you find that? Is that your house?
Yes.
So they literally come, and they'll be like, Mom, don't you
Prepared,
think,
ready for you.
don't you
Yeah,
think that's a bit hypocritical?
yeah.
And I'm like, how
Oh,
can I say hypocritical to my father or my mother?
oh.
Where did you guys get that audacity to even come back? When your parents say that, do it this way. How do you even get, what is that confidence that you people have that just makes you question our authority?
And do you know what it is? I feel like the issue with authority is the lack of results. When you, I'm so sorry.
What do you mean lack of
I'm so sorry.
That's below the belt.
Lack of results in the sense of, I feel like seeing is believing. So when you set a standard, we need to see the results and the benefits of that standard you set. If you just tell someone, for example, I don't like your hair, and we're not able to see the results of why we shouldn't have that hair, we're just going to feel like it's more your emotions rather than actual logical reasoning. So that's why I'm saying the lack.
The younger generation, they need to understand.
Yes, seeing is believing.
You can't just give them instructions.
So even with that, it goes back down to a conversation I believe we've had. Like growing up, I heard a lot of no without reasoning, and that left me trying to puzzle the why. And I've now had to walk life and understand, okay, you said I couldn't have McDonald's not because you didn't want to give it to me, because you didn't have money. I would have preferred if you told me you didn't have money, so I can now be on the same boat as you. But I grew up thinking, you just don't care about what I want. So again, I feel like seeing is believing. We need to know the why. And it's funny because at work, I was telling the boys in prison, is you need to ask yourself the why. Why do you want to be an artist? Why do you believe in your talent? Why has God given you this talent? What is your why?
Okay, I better really jump in there when you said it.
I was going to ask you about that.
Oh, yes, please. Please.
He's an incredible young man that believes in giving back. He's a Christian. And because of what he does and how he views himself as a leader in the community, he goes back to the prisons to help boys that have lost their way, find their way back, and prepare them to integrate back to society. So Adejosh, not that we're our boys that made mistakes, but like I said, we are now getting to that phase where we know that as a Black community, we need to be doing the internal work, which is what Abi and I, Seriously Doughnuts, have even taken on board, that we need to create networks where we're supporting our boys, not only by lip service, but by works like this that, Josh is doing, going to prisons, speaking with prisoners, and teaching them music, so that when they come out, they don't need to resort to crime. Adejosh,
can you talk us through your faith walk? Because I love your love for God. And how did that start? When did you, become, to give your life to Christ, as I would say, but
I feel like,
talk us through your
for me,
faith walk.
my mom was actually a Muslim, but met with my dad, she converted. But my truth is that for a very long time, I knew of God, but I didn't know him. So yes, I'll go to church on Sundays. I was part of the choir. But I realized that I'll say I got saved when I started building a personal relationship with God. And that was outside. I had to leave my parents' church. That was outside. When I was even in uni, about uni times is when I can say God really wrapped a rope around me and said, no, you're mine. My truth is, again, knowing of God, but not knowing him. I just feel like it was very, very much, I went to church because my parents went to church, but I now realize that how important them seeds were, because God, the beauty about God is that he invests so much into you without you knowing how much he's invested in you. So I've always been around music. The church I was around, we had everyday practice, and not knowing that it's molding me and shaping me for my future. And I feel like my first date with God was, my dad had a Bible that just was always in the house. If there's anything I could advise to any parent now, is just invest into things into your house. That could be Bibles, that could be a piano, that could be an instrument. It could be a camera, laptop, it could be anything, because these are tools that God will use to orchestrate. And I just remember the first time that I fell in love with God, or was very intrigued, I believe I was reading Matthews, and I started and I just couldn't stop. And then from there, yeah, it's been a very roller coaster journey with God. But I feel like God's very intentional with time and pain as well. I feel like God does things for us to see clarity about who He is. I feel like we're so focused and fixated on what God's hands are capable of doing rather than who He is. And that's why I feel like God has made me to love Him even in the darkness, even in the silent seasons, even in the moments where He doesn't feel like He's there. So, yeah.
It's always nice and refreshing to hear, young people talk about God and all of that. But having said that, I also gave my life at a very young age. So sometimes when you become an adult, you forget that you've been through that journey as well. But it's beautiful to see. But let's talk a little bit about your music. I always get excited when I see you on Instagram, and I'm always excited because I feel like I'm a seer. I believe I am a seer, and I see a future of you just doing great things. And the way you came into my life, and I like to put it that way, is through my own purpose. So it was a fashion show, and someone had introduced you to me to come to walk the catwalk for me. That there's this upcoming guy, and I saw you, and I literally just fell in love with you, and I couldn't tell the reason why. I couldn't tell why I was connected, and then at a point I realized that we were both born on the same day, only many moons apart. Very many moons apart. So I know that there's a connection there. However, I want to talk about your music. What has kept you going? Because some people might see you next year now, or people that saw you on BBC One, and they'll be like, wow, Adejosh was on BBC One with his friend and da-da-da. And you look like an overnight success. This overnight thing takes a lot of years. When did it start? When did you know that you wanted to be on this path of Afrobeats music?
For me, it started in my first song that I ever released was in 2014. And surprisingly, I was saying, the room that we're in now is where I shot my first music video. So I feel like God's very intentional.
Very much
so for me, it's been a journey of identifying self-worth. I met God through music. So that's one of the reasons why I can't walk away. Because if I do walk away, it feels like I'll be walking away from God. But yes, it's just been a very much self-worth journey. I've had to learn, again, God's investment, that I'm a legend before anyone claps. I've had to learn that it's not about the reactions or how many likes or how many views or who says they're the best and who's not the best and who likes you and who doesn't like you. That's why, for me, I feel like, again, God being intentional, the WizKids, the David Does had to exist because they taught me that you don't need to sing like Beyonce. You don't need to just work with the gift you have and it will make room and way for you. So I've been on this music journey and I've just, again, equivalent to life, I don't orchestrate nothing. I didn't orchestrate to be here. I'm here today to the glory of God. So I love seeing how God's hand show up. It's like BBC. I never asked to be on it. I got called. So there's a lot of things that this music journey, from being on Capital Extra or doing wireless or many other things, that I can say that I didn't ask for these things. Even this prison job, I never asked for it. So everything, I just believe in God's divine orchestration and I'm just taking each step. I trust God to be my shepherd. So I'm just the servant and son that's just following pursuit and following lead by God. So yeah.
Amazing. Again, the prison job, he's never been to prison. He just supports Black people and people generally in prison, with encouraging them to, probably use music as an alternative to fill in their time and replace crime with music and just self-development. I love what you said about self-worth, because I find that oftentimes in life, when I have a habit of dragging people to God when they upset me. I'm like, God, look at what this person has done to me. And oftentimes, God has a way of like, forget that person. You and I, let's talk. And then you'll be like, let me deal with that person. How about we fix this about you? Maybe perhaps we reposition you. Maybe that wouldn't have happened. So I love that fact about self-awareness because oftentimes in life, we always wait for people to choose us before we even remember that God already chose us.
Fact.
So before the likes, before the unlikes, before people ignored us, God already said who we are. So regardless of that, we need to really learn to just occupy. Agree with God. You know, the same thing that Oprah said, when people show you who they are, agree with them. The moment God reveals to you who you are, agree with God and work with that. And I love that about you. I love to see how you're making big strides and all of that. And like you said, sometimes you don't even need to orchestrate these things. So for me, well done.
Thank you.
Josh, well done. And I would like you to share a bit of your experience with this. Is it the young adults you work with?
Yes. Young adults. So I'm working with boys age, let's say 16 to 29. All sorts of crimes, from lifers to you
Quite
name
young.
it. Yeah, they're quite young. There are 7 life sentences.
Oh my God.
A lot of people that, let's say, society has given up on, but you realize that they are so blessed. And although they're labeled criminals, a lot of them carry, I'll say, the Spirit of God within. It's just that they haven't fine-tuned themselves to understand. And one thing something I had to learn recently is you are not who you say you are. You are actually what you do. And that is your identity. What do you do? And it goes back down to me breaking down to say, okay, what is your why? Why do you do certain things? So it's a realization journey. And again, I feel like that's why I've been on this musical journey, because I've had to realize within myself, although the storylines are different to the boys that are in prison, it is still the same experience that I've gone through in music. Imposter syndrome is a real thing. Understanding why do you react or respond in certain ways. Going back down to self, God has had to really deal with my heart's desires and the things that I put on top of my mountain, so that I can come to a place to understand this is how you actually intentionally pick God. So I've just realized that you can find a light in yourself, but you have to invest in yourself to see that. So
So these kids, do you talk about faith with them, or just?
So I won't say I'm allowed to, but what I do is I don't hide my faith and I don't hide my truth. So if they do show me that they are Christians, then yes, we can go in depth. But I always talk from a standpoint of not trying to convert. I just give my truth. I'll say, hey, I remember that I prayed for this, and this is the result I saw. I remember when I went through this journey, and I feel like God was teaching me this. So I don't shy away from my truth, and I believe all of them know that, yes, I'm a God-fearing man. So. Yeah.
That's really impressive. Well done.
Thank God.
So I want to talk a little bit about identity as a Black person. And so I'm talking about the issue around young Black boys now owning their Africanness. And I believe it started with them, or what I saw was with them showing up on social media, talking about their African mom, their African aunties. It was like a slow process of accepting
100%.
who they are.
100%.
But I remember that a few years ago, when I had my son, when he was just around 13, he hated being African. He would just say, I'm Black, British.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, you're Nigerian. And you say, I'm not Nigerian. And then one day, he just said, you know, Mom, me and the other Nigerians. And I was like... I was like, what did you say? He said, me and the other Nigerians, we just got together in a group.
Yeah.
I said, when did you become Nigerian? And I tried to trace it back. And just as a mother, I started to see that the influence of Afrobeats, Davido, Burna Boy, Wizkid, all these cool people emerging, and they were all of Nigerian heritage. And suddenly, they started to compare notes and see that my mom is just as weird as yours. My dad will smack you down just as yours would. So, what was the changing or accepting point for you? Or have you always had an embracing spirit towards your Africanness?
Yes. For me, I feel like I remember in secondary school, I was probably one of the only few people that would have like Wasil or Pasuma on my phone. But again, I feel like I was fortunate enough to be planted in White Garment, which is a very very African dominated type of church. And then I started playing with a live band, my African live band, Mr. Logo. I love you so much, brother. So I started playing with him, and so I was surrounded by a lot of Africans. I won't say a lot of my friends were, but seeing the change from people accepting it now, again, Afrobeats plays such an important role and position in people in the diaspora accepting and embracing back home. Again, I feel like we were raised in a way where our parents didn't want us to embrace our identity.
Really? Is that what you feel?
Because the only time we would wear, for example, native is if we were with family. But our parents won't confidently dress us up and say, okay, yeah, go, you're doing non-uniform day? Go wear that. It was very, and again, it's something we've seen, is that our parents will be African at home, but then be diluted outside in order to fit in. We saw our parents making continuous attempts to try and fit in rather than stand strong in who they are. That's why I feel like it's only recently that I heard Ashake, he had an interview where someone was saying that, your music is too Yoruba. And he said, it's all I know. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. Find someone else to listen to. It's like we have never seen a lot of people be shameless about who they are. It's always, I can be who I want to be in my environment, but over here, I'll try and fit in. So we've always seen this kind of borderline double life.
I think I need to jump in there and defend parents. And I think I need to defend a lot of immigrant parents because when I was growing up, a lot of our parents came and they went back home. They were not interested in settling here. I think we had this conversation before. They were not interested in settling here. But our generation decided that we're going to give our kids the opportunities that we didn't have. So we had to go through that, that stage of setting the stage. And sometimes when you go somewhere, you know what they say, when you go to Rome, you behave like a Roman. When we first came, we were looking around that, are we allowed here? Are we allowed there? We just wanted to fit in.
But it's so sorry to stop you there, sorry. But don't you see like the issue was leaving rather than building? So going back down to the Japa 101s.
But you guys are doing that living now because we paid that price.
Which is true, but at the same time, I feel like Nigeria could be a greater nation than it is today if we had, I'll say more resilient people that's like, I want to see a better Nigeria. Like the upbringing.
Nigeria is a whole different episode.
But that's why I feel like there's more of a desire to get out of Nigeria rather than build Nigeria.
Okay, so that's always been, it got worse a few years ago. And I'm talking about 30 years ago. Because I came to the UK about 32 years ago. So it got worse back then, and then it increasingly started to fluctuate and it started to trend again. However, the ones that decided to stay behind, we paid a price of getting to know a society, understanding how the society worked. And then when we found our feet, we're like, you know what? I'm not wearing this jacket. I'm wearing my agbada. Because then we didn't need to ask them, where do you catch the bus? You don't tell me I catch the bus myself. So we kind of paid the price. But I know that to your generation, it probably looked like we were not being real.
Yeah.
We were not, but we had to. This is how. This is like a war tactic. You go somewhere, you wreck it,
and then you have to pour the water.
Yeah.
We have to
So
do
that you guys
before they
will
even chase us, before we
step
settle
on the
down.
cool
So a lot
ground.
of you guys are staying at home, going to uni. We had to have 4 jobs, 3 jobs to get our way through school, to pay our bills. But now you guys can start a career you like. And you don't realize what some of these parents went through.
But which I do understand. And again, I feel like it's give and take. I understand the benefits that you are doing for the next generation. But on an overview, does it work long term or short term? And why I'm saying short, because I'm hearing Nigeria's not even owned by Nigeria now. Nigerians, like I'm hearing that a lot of like the money that comes in is from external countries, and what it shows me is that we have all got into this mindset of our answers outside. And again, maybe I'm talking from how my musical journey has been. I've always had to look and build from within rather than focus on the benefits I want outside. And I feel like there's been this subconscious flow that and repetition. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I get you, but I want to put balance to that because there are lots of Nigerians. There are 1,000,001 Nigerians that cannot imagine a day out of Nigeria. They look at those of us that decide to stay like
Japada now.
Yeah,
no, people
there
go
are lots of people that are like, I couldn't stay here, but I don't know how you do it. And because of that, I don't want to say my old age, but now that I'm in my old age, I spend a lot of time between Nigeria and the UK because Nigeria never really leaves you. Nigeria is your blood. And even when I was coming, I remember then my dad saw the eagerness for me to just get out of Nigeria. All I just used to talk about is I'm going to London. And my dad said to me, Roti omweniti wanshe.
Yeah, man.
And that means I know you're gonna go, I can't stop you. But never forget your roots. And that simple sentence alone grounds me. Every time I start feeling like, oh yeah, I'll just remember again that whatever I'm doing, I need to remember home.
Yeah.
I need to remember home. So I hear you, but I also want you to see that, and you guys, all you millennials and Gen Zs out there, go home and give your parents a hug.
For real.
The sacrifices that they've had to make to make sure that you don't need 3 jobs, that you can face your friends, your contemporaries, whether whites, Japanese, whatever they're doing, you can do it. You're not thinking, let me go and finish my 3 jobs. Because the basic things are covered to a certain extent.
And I would say the beauty of, the choices our parents has made is that we are now in a place where the millennials and the Gen Zs have a desire to go back home. I have a few friends that's actually relocated to Nigeria and they were all born here. 100%. And the beauty I'll say in it is that you have people like Anthony Joshua. You have people that make a name for themselves in the UK. And then with a lot of the knowledge that we've got here is now we're taking it back home and trying to build. Doesn't mean it doesn't come with obstacles, but the beauty of it is, I'll say the work that needs to be done, God will always find a way for the work to be done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no way we can forget Nigeria. 100%. Nigeria is always going to be in our hearts. Even as we're here, we're ambassadors for Nigeria, so to speak. So yes, Nigeria will always be in our hearts.